Hello guys, I'm back from another video on today's about what if Belle was from Terraria. So in the last video we talked about how after leaving off the episode at, Belle basically destroying both the the nebula and the, what's that called? Yeah, the Stardust Pillar, he would start going towards the other two pillars, specifically Vortex and finally Solar. Well, at the, after when he arrives at the Vortex, pillar, he would see, Lily taking care of it, while using both her, Pwn Hammer and her, Thorn Chakram in synchronization to basically beat on their asses. As for Belle would also see a certain, gigantic ass pillars spewing out those, weird looking insectoid looking creatures, which also have freaking guns. Yeah, that definitely seems a normal ass sentence to say. Yeah. Anyway, continuing on with the episode. Wait for a second. So, thanks to the help of, of both him and Lily, they would destroy the Vortex Pillar once and for all. As after saying goodbye to, Lily, he would start going towards the Solar Pillar, which, by the way, is the hardest pillar in my opinion. I mean, it's pretty much not an opinion, but more like an actual freaking fact. Yeah, I heard a lot of your pleas, like, Jesus Christ. Or at least, some of the people that I know that, play Terraria, like, Jesus Christ, they absolutely hated, the Solar Pillar. So, while he was making it there, he would see a certain, Venus over there currently struggling with her, with her fight against all of the, solar mobs, and also some of the people there, specifically, some of the Vice Familia members were trying to, protect some of the civilians and basically bring them towards, the guild to try and save them. To basically, basically evacuating them. That's basically a perfect answer for that. So, as they were doing that, they would see the large-looking, the large-looking mob, specifically, the one that's basically riding on another mob. If you don't know what it is, well, it's basically, the one of the solar pillar, shock troops, I guess you can say, riding on that weird-looking creature with multiple legs. So, while it was charging at them, they would somewhat defeat it, which, by the way, they were pretty proud of. As for Belle and for Venus, they would destroy the Solar Pillar once and for all. As Belle was basically, seeing all of this, he would remember, another feature about, the solar, not really the Solar Pillar, I meant the lunar event. And so would start running off to, to the, I guess you could say, back to the, wait for a second, back to the, Hestia Familia household, and would grab a lot of stuff, which they were wondering about, and would explain that there's gonna be something terrifying coming soon. In this case, the Moon Lord, which, by the way, some of the Terraria-based characters, like, for example, Ben, Vitas, and, I can't remember the name that they gave for, the steampunker, but they already know about the Moon Lord, so they're currently concerned. But for the rest, they don't really know until he'd explain, and all of them are terrified, and so they would start getting out, as they would hear the area start to shake, almost like it's glitching, as they would look above them, and the sky would turn black, like the stars were basically gone, as they would see the Moon Lord looking over them, thinking that they're nothing more than ants to them, or him, in this case. And so we basically ended off the episode right there. And so, let's talk about what happens next. So, as Moon Lord, or the Moon Lord is looming over them, Izuku would say this: "Alright guys, get ready." As you would grab, the SDMG and aims it towards the actual face of it, as you would start instantly firing, as the little eye things would just appear and would start blocking the attack, basically as meat shields. As for, Vitas and also, Lily would basically go over there and would start using their, unique abilities. And if you probably guessed, both of them are technically, like, melee based. Kind of. For for Vita, she's basically like a, a mage slash, melee based character. As Venus is basically, using her, her brandly acquired, True Knight's Edge, she would start slamming it towards all of the enemies as she would start, swinging her sword as it would create, a greenish, sword that basically acts as like, a some sort of like, range attack. As for, Lily, she would start using her Pone Hammer in conjunction with, her Thorn Chakram, basically acting like a baseball bat. So, as you would keep slamming it towards, all of the enemies, they would start, getting slashed apart thanks to it. Some of the enemies were running away, specifically the Eye Things. As for the Moon Lord would... Surprised? Actually, it doesn't really look surprised. In fact, it just looks stoic to the point that it looks like it doesn't have any emotions. As it would raise his hand, as he would start slamming it towards the ground. Just imagine, actually no. Just imagine it just like, creating a fist. After doing that, it would start creating something from its other hand. Just imagine a large-ass version of, a copper, broadsword. But except, a little bit sharper and a little bit more, on fire. As after doing that, it would slam it towards, all of the, to one of the golems that, she created, specifically Venus created, made out of wood, as it would destroy it. Just imagine it just like, that move in, if you don't know, there's this, show called Body Fight, which, by the way, I really wanted to do a what if about it. But unfortunately, all of you guys to say, nah, we don't know it, so we don't want to watch it. Like, Body Fight was my fucking childhood. It's like, a little bit better than Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, I said it. You can't tell me otherwise. Body Fight is pretty cool in my opinion. Right next to Yu-Gi-Oh! So, yeah. Just imagine, the finisher of that one protagonist. I can't remember his name. It's been a long time since I actually watched the show. But it's basically like, the signature move of that character. The name of the attack was called, like, Gigantuan Punisher, which, by the way, when I saw it, it was bad fucking ass. But now it just sounds so cringy to me. Oh, God. My cringy ass self back in the day. Anyway, so, after it destroys the golem, which was about the size of, just imagine the size of, like, I don't know, Hashirama's goddamn wood Buddha. Yeah, that thing. It's about the same size as that. So, while it was crushed, Venus would get out of it instantly as she would start, throwing her sword towards all of the enemies once again, creating a wood dragon. But, unlike, Hashirama's, instead it can actually somewhat fly, thanks to the help of the leaf wings that she created for it. As for Izuku was, flying around on top of, the little pirate ship, just like, Captain Kidd from Persona 5, as he would grab, the Daedalus Stormfoe and would basically start shooting towards, towards him, aka, the Moon Lord. The Moon Lord would just get angry as it would glare towards, Izuku. Izuku doesn't really know if it's actually glaring, but he can obviously tell that it's probably glaring at him. As it looks like, just imagine a certain, Skull King. Not, what's his face? Yeah, not Einzelgone, aka, Momonga, aka, Mr. Mr. Oblivious over there while he was getting all of the girls swooning over him. Albedo. Anyway, continuing on with the episode, and if you don't know who's that character, well, he's one of the Espada from, Bleach. And by the way, I really wanted, the Espadas to have their chance in this, episode because, come on. I really wanted to see a what if about that. I'm probably gonna make a what if about that. Maybe about, Izuku, maybe and Sailor Moon. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, continuing on with the episode. So, as Izuku was currently, destroying, one of the Moon Lords, I guess you could say weak point, specifically one of the eyes on his, hand. He would destroy it as, the Moon Lord would glare towards him, as he would start, grabbing something from out of the air, as it would be more and more eyes. Oh god, the eyes! So, the eyes would come out of his, weird looking, come out towards, comes out of his, hand. And by the way, I'm probably getting a lot of this wrong because it's been a long time since I actually played Terraria. So, yeah. So, I might be getting all of the fight stages wrong. So, please correct me in the comments. So, as well, it was spewing out more and more eyes. Izuku would see them as he would say, guess I'll just have to grab this then. As he would start grabbing, the Zenith, as you'd say, Blade Storm. As the swords would basically rush towards them, as it would start slicing all of the eyes. We go back to, Vitas, as Vitas is basically destroying, a few more eyes. As she was doing this, she would start, flying towards the Moon Lord, as she would start opening fire at one of his weak points. Specifically, start fighting towards, firing towards, one of the, other eye things, or at least one of the hand eyes. After a while of shooting it, the Moon Lord would just look towards her as she would start targeting her instead. This time, shooting out blasts of energy. Yeah, that definitely doesn't sound a bit terrifying. So, as these blasts of energies would basically appear, she would start dodging out of the way as these, randomly, created eyes, which resemble, the Eye of Cthulhu, but, less, I guess you could say, less hungry, trying to bite this face off thing. But instead, let me just see. So, as, the Moon Lord is basically, gone his two eyes god, well, oh boy. Two floating eyes would appear, as Izuku would see that their names were True Eyes of Cthulhu, as he would say, well, shit, he would basically say, as he would start opening fire towards, the last eye, specifically the one on top of his head, as he would start opening fire thanks to the help of the SDMG. After firing at it, it would start, becoming a little bit agitated, as these eyes would start glowing a little bit, as 6 more True Eyes of Cthulhu would basically instantly appear, and would rush towards him at full speed. As Izuku would see this, he would basically jump out of the way. As for Vitas, she would also see her own pair of, 6 more, True Eyes of Cthulhu, as she would basically dodge it away, but, her dragon goes bye-bye, being destroyed, as the shattered remains of it would basically fall to the ground. When she saw this, she would start using her leaf wings, yes, she got those, don't even ask, as she would start flying off, but because it's, not really good wings, she would start, flowing back to the ground, as when she does, she would say, god dang it, just be careful, Izuku, she would basically pray in her mind. Currently, back to Izuku. I meant Belle, god damn it. Okay. Continue on with the count. So, as Izuku would see this, I meant Belle, goddammit. As when Belle saw this, he would say, oh well. Well, shit. As he would see a few more, True Eyes of Cthulhu would basically appear, rushing towards him once again, as he would basically dodge it away, as he would say, just die already, he would basically scream out, as he would fire one more bullet, as it would destroy the final eye on top of his forehead. After doing that, the eye would basically be gone. When it does that, the not Eye of Cthulhu, I meant, the last, True Eye of Cthulhu would basically appear, as all 3 eyes would just glare at him, instantly towards him. Almost like they're just, let's just say not really happy. I mean, it makes sense. So, yeah, as for the Moon Lord's, chest would start to open, showing off the Moon Lord's core. As when he saw that, he would say, Alright, time to fire all at once. As after saying this, he would basically grab something from his bag. Specifically, the Zenith once again, as you'd say, alright, Blade Storm! As several, swords would basically appear out of nowhere, aka the swords that, used to be the Zenith, as the Zenith would start slashing through the core of, the Moon Lord. As for Izuku himself, he would start flying away, trying to avoid the large-ass tentacle that is trying to, bite onto him. As for him, he would start dodging out of the way thanks to help of his, his block spot, mount, as you would see the Moon Lord basically struggling to try and get him. He was basically just like there, just saying to himself, just like the game. But 10 times as worse, he would basically say in his mind, as while he was thinking this, something latches onto him. As you would look over and would see the tentacle-like thing, as you'd say, well shit. After saying this, he would grab a vampire knife and would start, stabbing it. While he was stabbing it, he would see, a bit of ichor come out of his, come out of his tongue, as he would say, huh, I guess he really is God. As after saying this, he would basically still stab into it, as it would come off. After doing this, the Moon Lord would start, a little bit of a growl, almost like it's angry or, hurt, as you'd say this, hey, ugly! After saying this, he would say, hey, maybe go back to your mother or something. Oh wait, I think you probably don't have one. As the Moon Lord would just be unenthused and would start, grabbing him. Or at least try to grab him, but he would fly out of the way as you would still use, the Zenith in conjunction with that. After doing a bit of damage, he would say, alright, enough of this, as he would start changing towards, the SDMG and would start instantly firing at the Moon Lord. As the Moon Lord would get shot multiple times, the Moon Lord would start becoming a little bit even more pissed. Wait for a second. So, after, started firing towards the Moon Lord would just be unenthused, as he would start getting, shot multiple times on the chest, as his health bar would slowly, start to, be gone, and starting to become even more darker, to the point that it's almost to, about, like 800%. As when it, felt the pain from it, it would start to yell out in anger. As Izuku would say this, not Izuku, I meant Bell. As Bell would say this, I think it's not enthused, or angry at this point, he would basically say in his mind, as you say, alright Sarah. As Sarah would basically appear, as Sarah, aka the, his pet, harpy, would start, looking towards, the Moon Lord, as you would say, trying to distract him. I'm gonna be taking out his heart. As it would start to nod, or she would start to nod, and would start flying off. As he would start shooting out, Ceros towards him. Almost similar to, Yukiura's one when he's in his, Resurrection form, or more specifically his Resurrection 2, or his second you basically get it, a second resurrection, or whatever. So, after doing that, it would start to target, Sarah instead, trying to grab her, but unfortunately, she's dodging out of the way. As for the, True Eyes Cthulhu, they would start, targeting, Saros instead. After seeing this, he would say, alright, time for the final shot. As you would start, activating it, as you would start shooting out, instead of ichor bullets, he would start shooting out chlorophyte bullets. So, after, aiming his gun towards, the bastards, I guess you could say, he would start opening fire. After opening fire at them, they would start, let's just say the heart is currently, near, let's just say a few, health points. Almost near, to the red. Not really red, but more like, you basically get it, like almost dead. As you say, alright, a few more shots. After a while of shooting it, Saros would start, poof away, almost like Naruto's, summons, like the frogs. Or at least I think those are frogs. Actually, no, toads, I meant. After seeing this, they would start targeting, Bell, as they would see, the Moon Lord's health is starting to, become a little bit lowered, as the Moon Lord was not really happy about that, and would start becoming a little bit rage-fueled, almost like a berserker, as would try to reach towards, Belle, but Belle would basically dodge out of the way, as you would say this, "Sorry, but I ate your dinner," as you'd say this, "Now, one more shot," as you would basically, aim his gun, or at least, the dolphin, or the SDMG, towards him, as you would say, "Take this," as a bullet would be shot out of the barrel of the gun, as the barrel would start, almost like Matrix style, getting ready to be, shot, as it would explode, as the bullet would basically connect towards the heart or the core of the Moon Lord. And so, the Moon Lord would explode, turning into a large, spinal cord, and also, I guess you could say rib cage, as its skull would basically destroy a pretty large majority of, the area of, not really. I meant, Arario, not Los Noches. Oh God, I'm pretty much a big fan of Bleach now, thanks to the help of thanks to the help of the Espadas. Thanks, Bleach. So, after doing that, Izuku would start to fly down, as he would see the treasure bag, as you would say this, alley-oop, as he would grab it, and he would say this, "Well, I'm guessing this is the end of the game, I guess you'd say." After saying this, he would see a few members of his familia basically coming up to him, as they would say this, not Izuku, I meant, "Belle, you're okay," as Belle would say this, "Well, I am the strongest in the, Hestia familia," and he would look towards, his girlfriend, aka, Hephaestus, as Hephaestus would say this, not Izuku, I meant, "Belle, you're okay," as she would basically grab him, as she would hug him closer to him, as he would say this, "Can you please stop that? It's a bit embarrassing," as she would say this, "Oh, yeah, almost forgot about that," as Izuku would say this, not Izuku, I meant Belle, as Belle would say this, anyway, here, after, giving her this, aka the treasure bag, she would say, "Belle, what did you give me?" As Belle would say this, "A treasure bag. These always, appear every time a, boss dies." As she would say this, "Oh, I see, and I'm guessing that's from that Moon Lord guy you said about." As Izuku would say this, not Izuku, I meant Belle, as Belle would say this, "Yeah, pretty much." As she would say this, "Cool, then," as she would start to open it and would see a few items come out of nowhere. Specifically, when she does look, she would see a few Luminite, and, the Star Wrath, and finally, a weird-looking sword with a cat-like face, and the blade is rainbow-colored. She would say, "What the heck is this?" She would basically grab the weird-looking sword, as you would say this, "Oh, that's the Mjolnir." I should say, "Excuse me?" She would say and look at, Belle, as you would say this, "Oh, yeah, that's called the Mjolnir. Let's just say it's a bit of a weird weapon, but it's still pretty strong. I mean, you can keep it if you want." As she would say this, "Cool, but definitely looks embarrassing." As you would say this, "You can tell me otherwise." He would basically say, "Anyway, we should probably get some sleep after all. We did have a big fight." As, after saying this, a few of the civilians and other familiar members would come out, as they would say, Is it alright to come out now?" As Izuku would say this, not Izuku, I meant Belle. As Bob would say this, "Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we did defeat the strongest, I guess you could say, monster imaginable." As she would say this, specifically Hephaestus. That's a bit of a, that's the biggest understatement that I can think of. Like, seriously, that thing is basically stronger than any monster imaginable. And besides, look, as everybody would look over and would see a few of the bones of this weird-looking monster, or at least what used to be the monster, as one of them would say this, "No! My shop! As after hearing this, they would see a man with a, weird looking mustache and say, "No, my cabbages!" If you get that reference, then you're an OG. So, after saying this, Izuku would just say, not Izuku, I meant Bell in his mind would say, "Is that an Avatar reference?" So, anyway, after this, one of the familiar members would say this, or at least a random familiar member. "Why don't we celebrate? I mean, we did survive a pretty much, and a super terrifying event." As, Bell would say this. Why not? After saying this, everybody would decide to have a little bit of a party. And so, a few days have gone by as they, sort of fixed up, Aurario. And even used the bones of the Moon Lord as, I guess you could say, more room. They sort of, used it as some sort of like, I guess you could say like a large ass, area. More specifically, a marketplace and also an apartment complex. What do I mean by this? Well, they sort of used the skull as like some sort of like, apartment complex. And the ribs of the used to be, large ass, god, basically, as, a shopping area. Because, they still have the bones, they sort of made, I guess you could say like, I can't really remember the actual term for those, but they're basically like, cloth roofs. And it would basically allow them to basically, do a lot of work, doing like, selling some stuff without, the hindrance of rain. And as for the, the used to be hands of those, large ass, of the large ass Moon Lord, well, they decided to use some of the material to, create weapons, but they're not as strong as, actual terraria weapons, unfortunately. Wait for a second. And it was finally nighttime as everybody is celebrating the whole, battle between Izuku, aka the, I guess you could say the Hestia Familia and their victory against that weird-looking monster, which Izuku decided to play off as a Moon Lord, aka a somewhat rampaging, monster that sort of became, so powerful that was even stronger than a god. Which, by the way, is sort of, was not an exaggeration, which, all of the gods would agree at that. Even, Uranus would be there, which he was pretty much happy about, because he sort of wanted to have a bit of a break. So, as everybody was celebrating this, Bell would just be alone in the, skull of the, I guess you could say the skull of the used to be Moon Lord. As Bell would say this. That was certainly quite the party. As he would look towards him, and look behind him, and would see, Hephaestus. As Hephaestus would say this. "Are you tired, my little prince?" She would basically say, as he would say this. "Yeah, pretty tired. How about you, my Cyclops?" She would say this. I'm a bit tired too. Why not we, maybe get some sleep?" As Bo would say this. Best thing you can ever say. And so, they would start moving towards, a little area. More specifically, a little, like, I guess you could say, like, I guess you could say a love hotel. Basically, brand newly created, after the collapse of the, what's that Familia's name? Yeah, the Ishtar Familia. And it's now called the, I'm not going to say it. So as they go into the love hotel, they would have a night of absolute, pleasure, to say the least. And so, this is going to be the end of this series. But before you guys leave, let's talk about the epilogue. And so, let's talk about that. So, Bell became the strongest adventurer imaginable and even defeated some other, bosses, like for example, the Empress of Light, which now became, a new member of the, of the Hestia Familia. Don't even question it. So, after that, they sort of became the strongest Familia, even though they sort of had, not very few members. Specifically, there was only 4 members, and let's just say, Many familiars were underestimating them, but let's just say after they fought them, oh boy, say goodbye to their lives. So, Izuku, not Izuku, but Bell, is currently married with, Phaistos, and sort of created demigod-like children, which Arados decided to accept it, mostly because he's pretty interested in the idea, but also quite interested in these, demigod-like children with these powers. And oh boy, let's just say they're overpowered. So, because of this, they would sort of became, great adventurers themselves. And as Hephaestus would see Belle, slowly die and basically, just dead because of old age, she would just, be a little bit sad, but because of, her demigod-like children, they're also mortal just like her. And so they would have a lot of, wait for a second, became a lot of, became quite powerful adventurers, and even created a brand new familia for themselves, aka the Hestia familia, which, Hestia was pretty happy about because she wanted to, keep on making, her familia stronger. And so, because of, Belle's and, Belle slash, Hephaestus' children being, demigods at this point, well, they would, get a lot of, and I mean a lot of, adventures to basically decide, to join their familia, aka, slash, Hestia familia, which, by the way, these sort of call Hestia and Hestia. And so, after a few years had gone by, let's just say Hephaestus would die, not by, old age, but by getting stabbed right in the back by someone that she cared for. Not really cared for, but more like as a, I guess you could say adopted, daughter. In this case, a traitor of the, Hephaestus familia. And so, both her children, I meant, would basically get revenge, and so would, inherit, the Hephaestus familia as well. And because of that, Hestia was never allowed to go to the human world to see her children grow, even though they technically can't age. And so decide to, visit, Belle in heaven, and would have a lot of fun with him. Mostly pleasurable nights, and also talking about how Belle was pretty much happy about his life here with her. And so, this is going to be the end of this this is going to be the end of this series. So yeah, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!